Hello everybody, this is John D here again, and welcome to another episode of Godzilla and His Amazing Friends with audio commentary. This month's episode is episode 8, entitled Unwanted Guest, which features the debut of Mothra. Also with me at this time, if you have been watching on Facebook, I have a particular guest with me who's played a very big part in this episode. Please introduce yourself, guest.
Sorry,
Yep.
Godzilla here.
Yep, Godzilla is here with us today since he was the winner of the contest that was held to make this episode. So I thought I'd add him here as a special guest to, because he, like I said, he played a big role in the episode, and it's only right that he's here with us, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, first, before we start off this episode, I thought I'd mention that first scene with Mothra up in the Earth's atmosphere. For those of you who don't know, in my particular series, Mothra is also a guardian of Earth, but unlike the majority of the monsters in the show, her role is to act as the guardian of Earth, much like how she does in the show. But unfortunately, she does not interact with Godzilla, and the reason why is because she and Godzilla share a particular animosity towards one another, which ultimately prevents them from working together at most times. But as you'll see in this episode, that does not stop them from protecting the planet that is both their own homes. So, yeah, she's sort of like at ends with Godzilla, but she's still a hero in her own way. But yeah, that's just what to explain for her. Also, this quick scene of Garris eating a tree branch, I wanted to reconfirm that this scene does confirm that the monster island inhabitants are omnivorous, so that way they can coexist peacefully with one another without having to rip each other apart. And so I just wanted to reconfirm that with everybody, that there is a way for these monsters to survive and coexist peacefully with one another. And to sort of mention this, since Kyle is in here with us, I did that. The idea of that came from Kyle's initial story plan, which was to open up with Anguirus eating some leaves from a tree. So, thanks for that, Kyle.
No problem.
And, yeah, you can thank Kyle for that small development in my series earlier on. And now, with this scene coming up here, we are introduced to our episodic villain, Vemula, who was the winner of the contest. And this was all due to Kyle's story on him. So, Kyle, is there any particular reason why you chose Vemula for the story of this episode?
Well, the main reason, because he doesn't get as much screen time as he should have in the series. He only appeared for like one episode in the original Ultraman, although he was killed in the end, and I don't know, barely like 2 minutes for the Ultra Galaxy movie.
Oh yeah,
and
that was like
this character's design. I really love how weird he looks, how tall he looks, he looks like a stick with spines on his back and a tail. That's what I thought when I first saw this guy.
A cigarette, a giant walking cigarette.
Yeah, that's what he is.
An artichoke would be more like it.
Yeah, I thought it would be really cool to, just give this guy some screen time in one of your little shorts. Thank you for that. There isn't really too many people out there who use this Vemula character, and I thought it would be cool just to put him in your episode.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for that. The other monsters, for those of you who don't know, who were in the contest at the times, were Bemstar, Gigan, as well as Kelbeam. And as most of you know, Kelbeam did make it in this series later on, but that's a different commentary for a different time. And also, with this scene coming up here, that is of course Mothra just ramming over Vemula at the time. Also, I should probably mention this too, is Gigan was the second closest in the contest at the time, for those of you who were paying attention when the contest was going up. But unfortunately, I didn't include him because Vemula surpassed him in story idea amounts. So, sorry guys, Gigan couldn't make it this time. Maybe he will in the future. I'm not entirely sure. All depends on what can be thought of at this time.
I'm actually kind of glad that you didn't use Gigan because you would have started looking like Godzilla films in a way because in his videos he has like Ultra Monsters every 5 or 3 videos, and by the 5th or 6th one he has a Godzilla villain.
Yeah, he has a bad tendency of using his opponents in a bad variety.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure you wouldn't fall like Godzilla films would.
Well, hopefully that hasn't happened yet, but what with everybody constantly asking for Godzilla monsters, that might be sooner than expected. But considering how much I've learned from you guys, that hopefully will turn out better than we initially thought. Also, one thing coming up right here, the appearance of Godzilla, you may notice the sudden change of lighting. Unfortunately, this entire episode is plagued with scenes like this, which unfortunately I have been blessed with, because at the time I couldn't really I didn't know how to set my camera's white balance to change at the time, and so it wound up making those really annoying sudden changes in the toy rendering when you take a photo of them. But yeah, hopefully now I know how to fix that, and that won't be reappearing anytime soon. Also, this scene right here with Godzilla and Mothra fighting in flashbacks, that is of course to show you that the two indeed have an animosity towards one another, and that they cannot get along too well, but they would in a situation such as this, because Earth is both their homes and they have to protect it in their own way. And originally I was thinking about using stock footage from the actual episodes from like Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, but the last thing I want to do is get a copyright strike from Toho again, because that's what killed my first account. And if I could recreate it with toys, just go for it, because that would be a much safer technique to use. And just thought I'd explain just a little bit of trivia behind that. Now, also, since Kyle, you wrote this entire episode, is there anything you wish you could have added before it was completed, or are you initially pleased with how it turned out?
Originally, I think I had Mothra revive Garris somehow. Was that in the original story I had?
Yeah, I had to cut that out because initially at the time I didn't really want to have Mothra associate herself with the monsters. Plus, the only instance in which we see Mothra actually healing another monster was in Battle for Earth when she helps Batra. But then again, some would argue that she was communicating with Batra, so unfortunately I had to take out that one scene. Plus, it adds to the whole animosity issue with her and Godzilla. But is there anything else you wish could have been added?
Originally, before completing the entire thing, I had Vemula sort of like beating up Anguirus right here and retreating. He would have been like a character like General Grievous from Star Wars. He does something really bad and he just runs away, and then would just sort of like leave you hanging for more, made you think that you're going to see this character again. I wanted to do that, but I wasn't so sure if you would be okay with it.
Well, there are a few escapee monsters who have survived, so maybe a monster might return in Season 2? Who knows? Maybe someone might return and take that mantle that Vemula couldn't get at the time, because, again, the series was just progressing, and at this point, I think more villains can be added at this time. Also, I should probably mention this, because of the whole taking out of the Anguirus getting hurt thing, I thought I should make Vemula's death a little bit more brutal than most of the monsters who've died in the series. Because, we sort of know that your films are known for its, more goriness to many other fan films, and I thought I'd make a little note to that Godzilla brutally murders Vemula in a fashion similar to your video. So
this is a Deadzilla movie.
Yeah. Deadzilla made this, guys. You should be grateful for it. And I believe that's about covers it for the majority of this episode. So, before this episode closes out, because we've only got 1 minute left, I just want to tell everybody that the majority of that season 2 is still accepting applications. I thought I'd mention this because, we have Kyle here who actually did lend a big hand in making this episode. And if anyone who is watching this wants to submit any episode ideas, now is the time before it's too late. And so with this last scene of Mothra taking off, still with her animosity unsettled, this pretty much ends the audio commentary for episode 8. And so, Kyle, I just want to thank you very much for joining me for this audio commentary, since, like I said, you played a really big part in this episode. And thank you for joining me.
Woo!
Oh yeah. And I'll see you all next month for episode 9, when that comes out at the end of the month.
Godzilla
Later.
forever.
Woo!